It's even more obvious that the Cleveland Browns need to start Shedeur Sanders after Deshaun Watson called out the fan base. I'll break it down on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome into the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, flying a solo mission on today's show, and it is presented by FanDuel. Join all the action at FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer this MLB season. On today's show, we're going to break down all of the news coming out of week 2 of the preseason in the NFL. We got to talk about all of these quarterback battles because we saw a quarterback battle in Minnesota end early, but I don't think it's been handled well since they decided who won. Michael Penix getting back into the battle with the Atlanta Falcons, and I think that's good news for Falcons fans. But we got to start with the continued disaster in Cleveland that got even worse over the weekend. Look, the Browns are close to naming a starting quarterback. By the time that you listen to this, they may have chosen their starting quarterback, but I am here to tell you that the only right choice is Shedeur Sanders. Number one, younger, more upside. That should be all you need to know for the Browns. The fact that they're still having a quarterback competition right now and one of the players haven't put themselves over the other tells me that it's close. And if it's anywhere close, you go with Shedeur Sanders 100 out of 100 times. Period. Because either A, you find a diamond in the rough, and a young guy on a cost-controlled rookie contract who can rejuvenate your fan base and rejuvenate your franchise on the national level. Because love or hate Shedeur Sanders, the point is you love or hate Shedeur Sanders. He's that kind of polarizing figure, and that can raise the national level of a team like the Browns when, the Browns aren't like a crap franchise that nobody knows about or anything. It's not like the Panthers, the Titans, the Jaguars, the Cardinals. The Browns have more prestige to them than that, but it's still the Browns right now. So if you could get a diamond in the rough with Shedeur Sanders, that would do more than make your football team better long-term. That would raise the brand as well. Deshaun Watson, right, wrong, guilty, innocent, whatever it is a stain on the Cleveland Browns franchise. He is a mark on the brand of the Cleveland Browns. The trade for him, his contract, everything that's happened since with the Achilles. And now, if you needed even more reason to go with Shedeur Sanders, at least he's somebody that your fans can rally around because Deshaun Watson hates Cleveland Browns fans. And quite frankly, I believe that they hate him too. And he talked about the disrespect that he feels from the Cleveland Browns fan base coming from our guys over at Locked On Browns.
Man, I didn't have no reaction. I think the biggest thing is I think you guys know too, and I think the whole world knows, it has nothing to do about the performance. It's a little bit personal than that. So I think that's it's a disrespectful thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep whatever I feel with me and my family internally on how I feel about that. And yeah, just move on.
But don't you think, Deshaun, that winning and playing better would eliminate some of that booing?
Last time I played on this field, I tore my Achilles. And that same fan base, they cheered when I got hurt. So does that have to do with, what does that have to do with anything about performance? When a person get hurt, especially for your own city, and they cheer.
Does any of that make you regret coming here?
No, I don't regret anything in my life. I think the Lord put me through situations for a reason, so I don't regret anything at all. But I had different thoughts on how it was going to be, but it is what it is. Sometimes the tables turn. And I'm patient enough because I'm a child of God to, wait for that time to change. So I'm not tripping on it.
I mean, that entire soundbite right there just makes me sigh deeply and roll my eyes. Again, from Locked On Browns, go check out all the breakdowns over there for my guy Spencer German and the Squad Show crew on everything going on in Cleveland. But again, when you write out the pros and cons, it is just so obvious that the Browns should go with Shedeur Sanders. I see no logical path forward to Deshaun Watson. And with that kind of statement right there, and I think there's a lack of self-awareness with Deshaun Watson. I mean, obviously, he doesn't feel that way. He doesn't see it the way that most of the people who look at that situation see it. That's his prerogative to live his own story. But, your fans are not going to rally around that guy. And it just creates a situation where it seems like the Browns organization wants to hurt their own fan base. Because what is the positive outcome of Deshaun Watson? What, he's a millimeter better than Shedeur Sanders and you win 1 or 2 games more? What's that going to do for you this year? And you can't say, well, the Browns, they want to win as many games. If they did, they would not have Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders as their quarterback situation. They would not have traded Myles Garrett. They did that because they know that they aren't going to win the Super Bowl this year. They know that they aren't a real playoff contender. So how can you know the truth right there and not know it enough to play Shedeur Sanders? There's only one answer. And it's the answer that I said on Friday's show. It's the answer that I will continue to say for the rest of eternity or until it changes. And I don't think that it's going to change. The Cleveland Browns have not wanted Shedeur Sanders, the general manager, the coach, the staff, all of that. They did not want Shedeur Sanders. They have treated him like garbage the entire time he's been there, had him behind Dillon Gabriel. I believe that the Cleveland Browns picked Dillon Gabriel so high, they overdrafted Dillon Gabriel on purpose because he is the anti-Shedeur Sanders, and they did not want the owner to force them to take him. Hey, can't. Sorry, Mr. Haslam. We already drafted a quarterback. We're going to take a quarterback high next year in the draft too. We can't, and we traded picks for Deshaun Watson on quarterback, and that didn't work out. We can't use any more draft picks on quarterback. We already took Dillon Gabriel. Now, if your boss says you're doing it, you have 2 choices: do it or quit. And Andrew Berry said, all right, fine, I'll draft Shedeur Sanders. But they never wanted him around. He never got a fair shot in Cleveland. If they don't give him this, they should have from the jump said, Deshaun Watson, you are a stain on our organization. Everything about your presence here is a disgrace and a reminder of how terrible we are. We are going to go with this young player who showed some ability and has more talent than where he was drafted. And if he's bad, he will lead us to our next quarterback, and we will give him a full opportunity. And at least we can say we put everything we could into Shedeur Sanders, and it did not work out. We are going to go another direction. But doing this, and if they pick, remember, by the time you hear this, I bet it'll come out. This is the podcaster's curse. I'm going to record on Sunday night, and it'll come out after I record or something. They'll probably pick Deshaun Watson. But whether they pick Watson or they pick Shedeur Sanders, you know my take. Watson is a disgrace to this team. Shedeur is them being responsible and giving hope a chance. And by not giving hope a chance and going with Deshaun Watson, at least at the beginning, until they're bad enough to say, okay, now we'll throw Shedeur out there after we're already terrible and we know it. To me, that's just, Shedeur never got a fair shake there. Never got a fair shake with the Browns. And, I don't think that Shedeur Sanders is good enough to win a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't think you could build a team around Shedeur Sanders and win. I'm sorry. I don't think he's good enough for that. He could be a low-end, like a Gardner Minshew level player in the NFL. But whether I feel that way or not, if you're somebody who loves Shedeur Sanders and you think that he can be a real starter in the NFL, you are perfectly well within your rights, in my opinion, to say that the Browns did not give him a fair chance. And I think that continued this weekend with Shedeur only getting an opportunity with the second stringers when Watson got an opportunity with the first stringers last week. It tells you all you need to know. He got screwed. He never got a fair shot. So good or bad, that's the truth. And I think all along, everyone in that building was scared of Deshaun Sanders. If we bring Shedeur in, whether he's good or bad, if he's good, they'll say, oh, he'll be even better if we bring in his dad. If he's bad, they'll say, oh, his dad can make him good for us. So I think everybody in the NFL feared Deshaun Sanders more than they didn't like Shedeur, and that resulted in the drop in the draft. And I think ultimately will forever result in him not getting a fair shot, whether he's good enough or not. But with that in mind, someone who we need to find out is good enough or not is Michael Penix. And now he's returning to Atlanta Falcons training camp when they need a shot of hope as bad as possible in Atlanta right now. Do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Gusto. Running a small business means wearing a lot of hats. You have payroll, HR, and benefits can quickly become some of the most time-consuming tasks on the list. Gusto helps simplify those responsibilities with one platform designed to make managing a team easier. Gusto is an online payroll and benefits software built for small businesses. It's all-in-one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use, so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere, from automatic payroll, tax filing, and simple direct deposits to health benefits, 401ks, built-in onboarding tools. Gusto brings the day-to-day HR tasks together in one place. There are also certified HR experts available to help with those tougher HR situations. I love that fact right there, having an HR representative to help, because we know those situations can be difficult to manage. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnfl and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnfl. One more time. That's gusto.com/lockedonnfl. All right, football fans, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. Again, we talked about the Cleveland Browns situation. They'll probably name a starter by the time that you hear this. If it doesn't happen Sunday night, it'll probably happen on Monday morning. But again, I think Shedeur Sanders got screwed no matter what, unless they let him start. And then I think now he's got a real shot to show his stuff. But with that being said, we move to another quarterback competition. It's in Atlanta with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, we didn't get any Tua Tagovailoa this week in the preseason. The Falcons went with their third and fourth string QBs, and that's perfectly fine, because this Atlanta Falcons quarterback competition is about to get a lot more interesting. The reality is that Tua has not proven that he deserves to take it and run. And I think the conversation around most in Atlanta and the conversations we've had here on Locked On NFL is, if Michael Penix doesn't come back to training camp early enough, which we'll talk about that in a moment, then Tua will have such a head start on him that it would be negligible for the Falcons to not give Tua the start week 1. All right, well, that ended up not being the case. Michael Penix has not joined training camp to this point. But Tua has been so bad in the joint practices in the preseason that it has left the door open for Michael Penix to get back in this. And I don't think that's great for the Atlanta Falcons. I think you would prefer to Tua just play really, really good, play as good as he can, run away with the starting job early on. And then if he starts to play poorly, Michael Penix maybe rips it back away from him. But Tua being so bad in practice while Penix was out, that Penix can come back in the middle of training camp and Tua has no lead at all, that's not great. That's not great. Now, Michael Penix back in training camp, again, that's big time news, because at least it gives Falcons fans some hope that maybe Michael Penix can. I know that people are down on Michael Penix, and I get it, but maybe Penix can come in. And if you're the Falcons, I said this about the Vikings, and we'll talk about the Vikings later, but if you're the Vikings, the best possible outcome would be J.J. McCarthy being awesome and stealing that job, or keeping that job away from Kyler Murray. He was a top 10 draft pick. He's a young player. You could still build your franchise around him. That is the best possible outcome for the future of the Minnesota Vikings. That didn't happen, and we'll talk about them in a minute, because they have botched everything that has happened since they picked Kyler Murray as the starter. But looking at the Falcons, again, the best possible outcome on that note is Michael Penix coming back and being a lot better than Tua. And Michael Penix still being good enough to be somebody you can build around with Kevin Stefanski as the new head coach. Like, that is the optimal outcome, to not waste a top 15 draft pick on a quarterback when you had Kirk Cousins to $150 million fully guaranteed contract. Like, that would be the get out of jail free card for the Falcons and be the best possible outcome. But is that going to happen? We're going to see. We can't know for certain, but that would be the best outcome, because everything else for the Falcons, whether it be Tua's performance, him dealing with back issues, James Pierce Jr. suspended, Jalen Walker hurt, injuries on the offensive line, early retirement of Caleb McGarry. Now, the best player in the back end for them, Jesse Bates, apparently dealing with a back injury that has my guy Aaron Freeman from Locked On Falcons concerned.
2 weeks ago, when it was first reported that Jesse Bates was dealing with a back injury, that we needed to see him cleared for joint practice. And we was like, hey, if he's not ready to go for joint practices, we're going to start to worry about this back injury. And Jesse Bates was not cleared for joint practices today. So officially, we're starting to get a little worried about that. Now, hopefully, we will get a positive update on Jesse Bates' status and when he'll be returned. Again, shout out Kevin Stefanski. But, I think when we look at this Falcons secondary without Jesse Bates, it is vulnerable.
It is vulnerable. The whole defense is vulnerable now. They have no pass rush. I like some pieces in their secondary. I really do, with the Terrell brothers, Bates, Watts. You know what I mean? They have some young safety, Bowman. They have some nice stuff in the secondary, but with absolutely zero pass rush now. An uncertain linebacker group. Not bad, not good, just uncertain. The O-line, not as good as it's been in like the Arthur Smith and the first year of Raheem Morris. The offensive line has lost a little bit of talent, got a little bit older. People in Atlanta don't like Kevin Stefanski either. That the fan base was not necessarily happy about that hire. Now, I'm sure nothing can be 100% true on the internet. I mean, sadly, nothing can be 100% true in this new society, day and age that we're in. But I know there are Falcons fans out there that like Kevin Stefanski, but there are far more, in my opinion, who were not inspired by that hire for the Falcons. So I look at that situation, and it could get ugly quickly if one of these quarterbacks doesn't step up and prove themselves. But the next matchup that I want to talk about from the preseason was the Minnesota Vikings against the Baltimore Ravens. And again, I do not care about the score. But what I do care about is that I think both of these teams are screwing up their quarterback playing in the preseason. Neither Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray played. And tell me if I'm wrong, feel free. But if I do recall, Lamar Jackson did not play last week either in the preseason. He played against the Eagles last weekend, or the Ravens played against the Eagles last weekend, and he did not play. So, or if he did play, he didn't throw the ball at all. And I look at both of these teams and I'm like, you have a new quarterback and a new system. Now, Lamar isn't new to Baltimore, but he's new to Declan Doyle's system. Coming from Ben Johnson's staff, that's a big difference from what Lamar Jackson has been doing for the majority of his career. Kyler Murray, new team. Kevin O'Connell, new system. And Kyler Murray hasn't played at all. With NFL teams around the league playing their guys more in preseason, and we always say preseason is vanilla. I've seen quite a few people talking about it. The preseason has become a little less vanilla, at least on the defensive side of the ball. We're seeing a little bit more coverage rotation, disguises. We're seeing more pressure fronts and exotic blitzes, especially in this game. Brian Flores with the Vikings. He was putting some pressure on early. So the fact that Lamar Jackson is, and I hope that he plays next week, right? He's got to play sometime in the preseason in this new system if they're going to come off to a fast start. And then Kyler Murray, when did Kyler Murray get good enough to, he only played a drive, I think it was in the first game. didn't play at all. And J.J. McCarthy was not good in the game. He did not represent himself well. I think he had one good play, had a bomb. He has a strong arm. He can throw it, but overshot a guy in the end zone, wonky decision-making. His confidence is probably shot now after they went to Kyler. You had to know that that was going to be the result. Very rarely do you see, first-round young quarterback get back into the saddle after a team gives up on him like that. But I just think that's the wrong way to do it, man. It's not like Kyler Murray has experience here. It's not like Lamar Jackson has experience here. And both these teams missed the playoffs last year. They cannot miss the playoffs this year. There's a playoffs or bust feeling around both teams. I just think they are playing with fire, not letting those guys see any preseason action, any meaningful preseason action up to the third game. It's risky to me, very risky, and something that if they get off the slow starts, I'm going to bring this up because I think it matters. I think in the 3 preseason game world, in today's NFL, where they've cut out a lot of the hitting in training camp, padded practices, 2-a-days, full contact, the NFL is really pared down on what you're allowed to do in training camp and in the preseason process. Preseason games, I think, are more important for teams to get hyped up, and I think some coaches around the league are acting like that, and some coaches aren't. It'll be interesting to see who ends up right. But with that being said, I'm going to throw it to my guy Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings, so you get the inside take on J.J. McCarthy.
J.J. McCarthy struggled in an alarming way as the Vikings lose 13-3 in their second preseason game. Score doesn't matter, but how the young guys played did. And J.J. McCarthy seems to get worse every week in the stuff that we point out as the reasons for his struggle. Passes get higher. His process gets more messed up. He takes longer in the pocket. There are still pre-snap issues. It's getting to a point where it's difficult to see the path where this is salvaged. But on the other side of the ball, the young players like Caleb Banks and Dominique Orange and Jake Golday all continue to make plays, and the Vikings defense completely suffocated the Ravens until the second half, and all the threes were in, and that's when all the scoring happened. I'm about to go live on Locked On Vikings, and then we have the squad show after that, so it's an hour and a half of live recap content on Locked On Vikings. Come through.
So good effort from the defense. That's what you expect from Brian Flores. But again, it's not just me and my analysis of J.J. McCarthy. You have Luke there who wanted J.J. McCarthy to work out. He's telling you it just wasn't good. But with that being said, more quarterback battle stuff to discuss. But this time we go to young guys who played against each other, the Steelers and the Jets, and the Drew Allar versus Will Howard battle. I think it's coming to an end as well. Do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Home Chef. Life gets busy, and figuring out what's for dinner every night can quickly become another thing on the to-do list. Home Chef takes the stress out of mealtime by delivering fresh ingredients and easy-to-follow recipes right to your door. Whether you're looking to eat healthier, save money on takeout, or simply spend less time grocery shopping and meal planning, Home Chef makes cooking at home simple, convenient, and enjoyable. Home Chef offers more than 30 meal options every week, including calorie-conscious and GLP-1 friendly meals. So there's something for every schedule and lifestyle. For me personally, this time of year when football is kicking off, I have a ton of content to make, film to watch, all of that, and regular life stuff to deal with. Mealtime, it's nice to lean on Home Chef. You can too. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off and free shipping on your first box, plus free dessert for life. Go to homechef.com/LockedOnNFL. That's homechef.com/LockedOnNFL for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. Homechef.com/LockedOnNFL. Must be an active subscriber to receive your free dessert. All right, football fans, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL. Again, a solo mission for the Madman. We have talked about the Cleveland situation, the Falcons situation, Vikings, Ravens. But now we move to the Pittsburgh Steelers because their quarterback situation has been one of the more interesting ones for me to pay attention to all off season long. You have Will Howard, who was drafted by the previous regime or previous coach last year, 5th round pick. out of Ohio State, won the national championship. A lot of people in Pittsburgh really high on Will Howard and believe that he could be the answer. But then the new coach comes in, Mike McCarthy, and he goes out and he gets Drew Allar in the mid rounds. And it's like, okay, you have Allar, you have Howard, but we know it's going to be Rodgers. And then you have Mason Rudolph, who is expected to be the backup. And from the Steelers' perspective, which I don't agree with for the record, they're saying, hey, we have Aaron Rodgers. We're trying to win the Super Bowl. If he's out for a couple of weeks, we need a real veteran to steer the ship until Rodgers is back. That is why Mason Rudolph is expected to be the backup. I think that's so dumb. Look in the mirror, Pittsburgh. You're not a Super Bowl contender with Aaron Rodgers. You're not. And Mason Rudolph isn't so good as a backup that he's for certain going to be able to get you out of losing. You are much better served to keep both the young guys. And if Rodgers is out, let them fight. Now, Pittsburgh would have to admit to themselves, look in the mirror and say, we are a great franchise with a great history, but we are not Super Bowl contenders right now. And they can't do it. They can't do it. They are the drunk dude with the varsity jacket on at the end of the bar in your hometown. Just, nope, I'm still the same guy who won the state title back in 2010. You know, man, come on. Take off the jacket. Put on a tie. Get a job. Move to a suburb 15 minutes out of town. Do something. You know, I'm just tired of Pittsburgh. Like, they just got to realize who they are. Either get aggressive and go up and get a quarterback in the draft, or admit your situation and quit limping to first-round playoff exits at best. Now, they don't agree with me. And Mason Rudolph is going to be the backup quarterback. And they're going to choose one of the young guys. And when they do, I think that Will Howard is going to be the odd man out. And he is the wrinkle that the Steelers are dealing with right now, according to our guys at Locked On Steelers.
Well, I think this is huge that Will Howard is getting this start, because truly to me, he is the key variable in this entire conversation. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, we know, is locked in as quarterback one. We knew the moment that the Steelers drafted Drew Allar in the third round that he was going to be on the roster. So really, and really, I think the other interesting part is they're not going to play Mason Rudolph at all, because he is the known commodity. You know, right, as he enters his 9th year, exactly what you can expect out of Mason Rudolph. Will Howard is the guy that is the variable. He is the guy that is going to swing this one direction or the other. And I think that it's been a mixed bag.
And it was a bad bag in their preseason game against the Jets. Will Howard did not play well. 10 for 15, 74 yards. He had 2 interceptions. Drew Allar didn't play that great either. 11 for 23, 110. It wasn't a great showing for either quarterback, I would say. But if they're even, then Drew Allar wins. He was drafted by the new coach. He was drafted higher. He was drafted more recently. Check, check, check. 3 strikes, you're out. And if Mason Rudolph is so entrenched as the backup that he can't even be played out of that spot by Will Howard, then Will Howard's done. I think he's going to get picked up by somebody else. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of teams out there willing to bring him in as a backup or a third quarterback on the practice squad, see what they can get out of him. I think, you know, he could have a career as a backup, but I don't think it's so guaranteed. Just because you do well in college does not mean that you're going to be good in the pros. So, like, just because Will Howard won a championship at Ohio State doesn't mean that he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. And the draft showed us that NFL teams don't believe that to be the case. So, as somebody who is an Ohio State Buckeyes fan, JT Barrett, there are people I still know who swear up and down JT Barrett could have been a great quarterback in the NFL if he was given a shot. No, he couldn't. You know what I mean? So some guys just don't have it. And Will Howard could be a guy like that. We will see. But it wasn't a good showing for him. And I have a feeling that Drew Allar took a major league, and any chance of him taking it away from Mason Rudolph probably went to the wayside. Cade Klubnik, 10 for 14, 75 yards. It was just an okay showing for Klubnik. Not as good as last week, but fine. I do want to mention Fernando Mendoza went out there on Thursday night, 8 for 15, 86 yards, had a pick six, took a sack. Not a great performance for Fernando Mendoza. And as somebody who's been on this podcast saying that the Raiders should just go with him week one, well, Clint Kubiak is sending that to my phone. Like, see, he's not ready. All right, I guess so. Keep giving him reps in the preseason. But that's going to do it for me today. The Browns are going to make their quarterback decision on Monday. So, hey, Monday morning, you're listening to this. You know how I feel about what's going on in Cleveland, regardless of what they pick. But that's going to do it for me. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On NFL. As I tell you every single episode, again, thanks for tuning in. I do that every time I do solo. And stay safe out there.